Hey everyone, my name is Gunther and welcome back to Igua-Zoo. Today we are building a micro habitat for the Galapagos giant tortoise. And I realize we're saying micro and giant tortoise in the same sentence normally wouldn't work really well, but through the power of Planet Zoo Plus, we are able to make this really cool, really small habitat for our Galapagos giant tortoise. Now, you might have noticed right off the bat a little bit of a blip here. Our barriers are pretty much put together, and I apologize. I was actually streaming this, and my recording software actually didn't work initially, so we had to salvage some of the content. But it's coming together. Now, on top of that, our barrier actually is a pre-built barrier that I made way back in the day for Igua-Zoo. So when I first started Igua-Zoo, I was coming up with all of these ideas for different barriers because I like to try different things. And I created a graveyard of builds. And I hope that everybody has a graveyard of builds and it's not just me. It's you build something, you kind of like it, it doesn't work out, you ship it off to the graveyard. And this actually came from our graveyard and not too hard to build either. Came from the bamboo colored pieces as well as the South American window covers and then just some rope to kind of tie it all together. It's a really rustic looking barrier that fits the entire theme. And on top of that, it's fully flexi-color as well, which is even better. So I did mention that I built this on stream, and it's really important to me because when I stream, it's a way for us to hang out, talk Planet Zoo, share facts about animals, which I don't know about anybody who joined the stream, definitely learned some pretty cool facts about Galapagos giant tortoises. And it also helps me to improve because I get my feedback live and people can kind of help shape the direction that this build is going. And that is no different for our giant tortoise habitat, specifically with our barrier. Right off the bat, the glass added piece was a suggestion from Lizzie, which was a fantastic idea. And the idea behind it is really just to allow children to be able to come in and see into the habitat without necessarily having to climb up or around one of the barriers, because they are quite high. And I remember going to the zoo as a child, always being able to see the animals was something I really enjoyed. When you go to the zoo as a child to see animals and to experience new things, it's no different. So providing this is a great way to allow children to see into a barrier that does legitimately block a lot of views. So thank you, Lizzie, for an amazing idea. On top of that, I took a lot of inspiration from Toronto Zoo, specifically about how it treats habitats for animals who are maybe not native to that climate. And I realize we're building in South America. The Galapagos giant tortoise comes from the Galapagos Islands, which is in South America. It's the perfect location for them. But the idea behind having tortoises in an outdoor habitat that maybe during inclement weather, because in Canada, inclement weather happens all the time, that you would have these signs that would pop up saying, hey, sorry, our animals are off exhibit, come back another time. And I really wanted to emulate that kind of style here. And I realized our Galapagos giant tortoises will never leave the exhibit. They're going to be here for life, and that's okay. But that was really what drove the idea of creating this really awesome looking outdoor habitat that's really small. And I'm super happy that Planet Zoo Plus allows us to create a small habitat without really having to worry about size, because this is actually built on sandbox mode, but I've left a lot of the franchise mode settings enabled. Now, you might be asking yourself, what are we putting together? And that's a great question. For those who remember, the way Igua-Zoo was set up is this area is called the temple area for Igua-Zoo, a really big focus on creating South American style temples everywhere. And I wanted to kind of continue that concept within this habitat for the Galapagos giant tortoise. And don't have a lot of space, so we can't take a whole lot of that up. And I thought the best way to do it would be kind of creating a hard shelter that would act as a way for our giant tortoises to maybe get out of the sun, they can cool off in the shade and whatnot. So to that end, created this little hard shelter styled after a temple. And you're gonna see it all come together, but the concept is pretty sound. I like it, it works. And at the end of the day, when you're building in Planet Zoo, as long as you're happy with what you build, that's really all that matters. Now, we are utilizing a lot of the techniques from earlier in our episodes where we're pairing and layering a lot of stuff together, adding in a lot of grunge and grime to rough it up a little bit, maybe adding in some really old broken pieces to make it seem like the temple's a little bit more natural, which totally makes sense. Now, you can definitely see me taking some time to stand back and just look at what we're putting together. If there's one thing I've learned from a lot of the people on YouTube, and I'm going to give a shout out to Sparrow because she's the one that kind of taught me to do this, is to always take a look and check your sightlines. Now you are going to see me play around with a few different pieces, specifically some of the FlexiColor pieces, and I wanted to utilize them, but sadly, all of these rubble pieces don't come in FlexiColors, which means that we're stuck utilizing that same old stone color. But at the end of the day, it's okay. Everything else is going to be this color, so it kind of fits. Now, what's really cool about playing Planet Zoo and challenging myself with these videos is watching myself improve over time. And I really hope that this encourages a lot of new Planet Zoo builders that it can take time to get where you want to get, but given enough practice and working with a community who is very welcoming, and that is very much the Planet Zoo community, you can really come together and create some really cool things. And this is no different. Even when I look at my first habitat in Igua-Zoo versus this particular habitat, it's wild to see how the foliage has changed and how my entire build process is adjusted. And that's what I love so much about playing Planet Zoo, is taking foliage and creating things that look so much more lifelike. And we're working on building things together, and that's why feedback is super important. So if you guys have feedback about this particular build, I encourage you to share it, because that's how you improve. And maybe if you learn something here, I really encourage you to share that as well. And as an example, I recently watched this really cool video from a YouTuber called Jean Tai. She's very small, but she has these really cool little tutorials. And she shared one recently, which was how to build kind of a grassland in Africa. And I took a lot of new tips and tricks from that particular build. And I really encourage you guys all to check out these really cool small videos, because sometimes you're going to learn really cool things. Now, I hope that you're learning things from my videos, but if you're not and you're just here to hear about or watch Igua-Zoo come together, I'm totally cool with that as well. And you're actually seeing something I've never done before. And we've talked about foliage islands in the past, creating raised areas where we can place different types of foliage, and this is no different. We're actually utilizing the curved wall piece from the temple section just to create our base, and then adding in some trees, pivoting in it just a little bit, maybe having to adjust it a little bit more, but getting it stuck in there, and then placing the additional flowers. Now, part of the reason why we're doing this is that back wall looks really ugly. There's not a lot going on there. It's actually a back wall going into the backstage area, so we have to keep it kind of clean. We can't have a lot of stuff poking through, so it does take a little bit of time, but we get there. Now, I did borrow these particular rocks from our jaguar habitat, because sometimes when you get the perfect color scheme, there's no reason for you to not go and borrow things from previous habitats. Again, that graveyard of previous builds really comes in handy when you're building a whole new zoo. If you have a graveyard, let me know in the comments below as well. I would be very curious to see if I'm the only person that does this or if everybody does this. Now, our habitat's finally coming together. We're pretty much in the end stages. And there's one thing I tend to struggle with a lot when it comes to building habitats in Planet Zoo. It's how empty they can look. Having an empty ground that's just short grass is probably ideal for a lot of animals. They want to have a lot of empty space. And when I think about going to zoos and some videos from zoos, and if I'm watching like behind the scenes for zoos, you can tell there's a reoccurring theme for a lot of the videos I watch. You really see a lot of empty space. But in Planet Zoo, it just doesn't look very good. Now, there's a few tips and tricks. You can feather in some terrain paint. You see me working on it right now. You can place some rocks. That's definitely my tried and true method. And you can place down a lot of foliage. You can use buffalo grass, which is a great way to add a little bit more depth to your builds. Buffalo grass doesn't exist in the South American palette, so we can't utilize that. And that really just means a ton of rocks and placing some foliage around it. Now we're on to the final build, and this came well after the build. I was actually done with the build itself, and I was really just working on kind of sprucing this area up. And you're going to see what it looks like at the very end with some cinematic shots and some posters and videos and stuff like that. But this is our final build, which is kind of just an accent wall. Huge shout out to Pinterest for the photo that really inspired this. It's amazing what you can find on there. Pretty sure, I think the community is pretty sure that this photo is probably AI, but that's beside the point because it's something I can build and you can see it coming together. It's always about creating a different contrast between all of these rough looking rocks and then a lot of plants that stick through the wall. So really nothing too bad. It's going to be the wood panel followed by some bricks and then adding in a bunch of different foliage. Now, the really cool thing is we're making this for South America, but there's nothing stopping you from making this for any palette that has a lot of different foliage sizes. So it's a really cool technique, and I love the way it all came together. You're not going to see all of it, but it's definitely going to be building and adding a lot more flavor to our overall build. I also mentioned that I learned something from one of Jean Tide's videos, and you just saw me utilize it right there. I've never really thought about taking bushes and sinking them so far into the ground just that the top comes through, because it can add so much more variation. Normally when I place a bush down or a tree down, I pretty much utilize the tree as it's meant to be used. And thinking outside of the box might be something I struggle a little bit with this particular build. Now, all said and done, we have a perfect habitat for us to end our temple area off. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I'm really happy to see Igua-Zoo kind of complete. For those who are counting, Igua-Zoo may just be my second zoo that I finish on the channel, and that also means it's my second zoo I've ever finished in the game, because I started playing Planet Zoo pretty much at the same time that I started uploading videos. So just some really cool ideas and different things that have come together, and I'm really excited to see all of it kind of hit an end. And it's perfect timing because, of course, Planet Coaster 2 has been announced. It's coming out at some point in 2024, so I'm really looking forward to that particular game, and we need to make room on the channel for this. But on top of that, I have so many different ideas rolling around in my head right now of other zoos that I want to create. And I think part of it is because I'm improving, and as you improve, you naturally want to start building different. You want to start building a new zoo because you want to take what you've improved on and make it from the very beginning. Because one of the easiest things that happens in Planet Zoo is sometimes you just get distracted by all these really cool things and you want to restart your zoo. So it's really hard to finish a zoo because generally you improve over time. So it's a really cool thing to see a zoo come to completion, and I'm really excited to finally see that come together. Alas, we are near the end of the video, and that really means it's time for me to say thanks for everything. Now, before we get there, I do want to say if you feel that you're really liking the direction of Igua-Zoo, maybe you want to jump on to the next live stream, think about hitting that subscribe button. It'll let you know next time I'm live, and on top of that, you can leave a like, and that'll help me to grow. But I do want you to remember, there's no pressure to do so. Other than that, I just want to say thank you so much for all of your support and your encouragement and helping me to build these really awesome zoos, because I couldn't do it without you guys. Keep around until the very end. You're going to see some cinematic shots, and you're going to see where Igua-Zoo and what Igua-Zoo looks like from the sky. And with that, I just want to say again, thank you. And as always, ciao for now.